My time coming, know it is, cause I didn't pray for it. I'm in a suit day and night, yeah, I done slaved for it. I never knew that if I rap, I could get paid for it. State to state, different cities with the gang touring. He ain't a beast, if he play, I had the gang storm him. It's on the love, if you my brother, we got the same story. Yeah, what you know about a kick, though? You wasn't with me, I was running.
Beautiful people. What's happening? It's your boy Smith, man. I know we took about 2 weeks off. It's the end of the summer, had to wrap some things up. But thank you for joining me here on Public Comment. I'm the host, you know what I'm saying? Started this to provide some motivation, some positivity, some education, just to be a funnel of some information from what I've seen organically. Like there's a lot of great programs and resources available for people, but like, you know, the people that it's designed for don't even know how to access them. So that's why we did this. And then, you know, we had some things, it kind of blossomed on its own. And today is kind of crazy how just the organic nature works. So this is going to be the final episode of our summer series, Black Women 2023. And the reason I did that, like I said, it was just time to shine light and give flowers to our Black women that are here presently doing things before it's too late. Yeah, there are some wonderful Black women that came before that are not physically with us. And we celebrate them as well. But at the same time, you know, I think it's overlooked at, you know, the Black women that are currently occupying our space right now that we get a chance to share and may not get highlighted as they should, or as often or sensationalized as they should. And so that's why we did this. And like I said, you know, the organic nature of this is the beautiful woman that is sharing the space with me today was actually my first interviewee on Public Comment. And so it was only proper to make sure that she shuts down the show for our summer series, Black Women 2023. And if you can see her, you know who I'm talking about. It's my most beautiful, my glamorous, the intelligent, the extraordinary, the out of this world, Mrs. Mitzi Givens Russell. Babe, how you doing today?
I am well. How are you, Smitty?
Come on out there. It's going to be one of those shows, people. So here we go. I'm good, babe. Yeah, I'm good. If you kind of notice, I had got a shirt on because I already know how my wife do. She called my makeup artist and he politely told her to stay on hold because he was too busy doing finger painting, or he's probably going to do finger painting on her face because he's great like that. We're talking about our grandson, which we're going to pick up in a little while. Anyway, to the show. Babe, welcome. Thank you for joining me. There was no other person that came to mind when I thought about who was going to be the last woman to occupy this space for our summer series 2023. You know, yeah, it's you are the only person that I think could even fill that role to shut it down. So with all of that said, I just wanted to give a quick bio. I didn't ask my wife for her bio. I think I'm going to read it off the top of my head. And if there's anything I missed, babe, please feel free to add. She's a daughter. She's a mom. She's a grandmother at the age of 20 something. Look at her. She's a wife. She's an auntie. She's a sister. She's a sister-in-law. She's a friend. And this is the one thing I want to say. My wife has all these accolades about her professional stuff, which I'm going to let her explain because I don't want to mess things up. But I do want to say this about my wife, that if you know my wife and I'm not talking about in the family, I'm talking about friends outside family. If you know her and she considers you a friend, she's so much more than that. My wife doesn't care about, like, you know, the external stuff. My wife really cares about your soul. I seen my wife interact with her friends, and it's not just like, oh, friends, hi. No, she cares about your well-being, your spirit, your energy. And, you know, babe, I don't know too many people, let alone women, that take that friendship, those relationships so serious. So I wanted to make sure people know that my wife cares about your soul and your well-being, and it goes into that beautiful smile you have. So I don't know if I want to talk about the professional part right quick, but if you want to add some stuff in there about your accomplishments, about your bio, babe, please feel free.
Sure. Well, first, I want to thank you for having me. I'm honored to have been your first guest on Public Comment. And Sounds like I'm closing out the Summer Black Women, Strong Black Queens series.
Say that.
So I appreciate that. Yeah, we can talk a little bit about my professional career. It started right a year after high school and entry level, and I just through mentorships, sponsorships, and I will add from Black women within the
Yeah.
industry. I was able to be exposed to so many parts of the industry that I did not initially know existed, and really just learn how to be a well-rounded Black woman in the telecommunications industry. So, but for mentorship, sponsorship, and other queens lifting me, taking me under their wings, showing me the ropes, I don't know that my career would have sparked and become what it has as of today. So we can go further into detail if that's part of the agenda, but I just kind of want to give that high level overview of kind of just what we as queens have the power to do within our communities.
Babe, thank you. There's so much to unpack, just the little things that I picked up on that what you said, and we're going to get to that. Um, so right now, what is your current position? And then when we get to the professional part, we'll dive deeper. But what is your current position at your place of employment?
My current title is Director of External Affairs. And if I were to try to sum it up, I am a cross functional collaborator between the three disciplines that incorporate external affairs for the company. And really, with that said, just nurturing relationships that exist, understanding the business, ensuring that every discipline tied to whatever that project, whatever that challenge, whatever that assignment is, takes part, has a say, and we collectively reach the business unit goals.
Okay, okay, that was a lot for me. That's why I let you say that because I would have never got that right, and it would have came out all messed up, and I wouldn't have did you justice. So let's get to the creation of Mitzi. Let's get to the creation of Mitzi. Talk to us about just being little girl Mitzi with the ponytails, the pretty face, the pretty eyes, the shy little girl. And then just, growing up, observations, impressions, long lasting impressions, relationships, life skills, things of that nature.
Okay. So you hit the nail on the head. A lot of people don't believe me now when we talk about how shy I was. I was a paralyzingly shy little girl. Cried if you didn't know me and you wanted to engage me in conversation. Um, I think that I think that I had the normal 80s childhood. If you think back to the 80s, where every waking moment where I did not have to be at school, I wanted to be outside playing with my friends. And that included riding bikes, skating, going to the candy lady's house,
Mm,
just exploring, red light, green light, you name it. And I will say, being grateful for having grown up in the 80s, those childhood friends are lifelong friends, right? I don't know if that still exists. I don't know if children really experience those relationships outside of the home too much, unless they're in other extracurricular activities. But I think I had your typical 80s childhood. Um, I am a daughter of a mom who immigrated from the Philippines with a fourth grade education in the
say that.
Philippines, a father who did go to college and obtain his bachelor's degree, born and raised in El Paso, Texas, also went into the military. So I'm a production of their union. And to kind of really tie back to that shyness in hindsight as an adult and as a mom, not just a mom, but grandmom, I think back and I don't know whether my shyness was just a natural genetic shyness, but a lot of what I have reflected on throughout my life, throughout my healing phases, is that I was not necessarily equipped with the self-esteem necessary for a little brown girl growing up. I mean, I don't even want to just make that brown girl. I think for any little girl, I feel like their first love, their first arms to feel safe in, their first experience with what the world outside of their home has to offer them is important to be experienced in the arms of a father. And that isn't to say that my father wasn't there. My father was physically there. But again, in my healing and in hindsight, I have to recognize that our parents parent us the best to their ability, the best that they know how. A lot of times our parents us the way they were parented. And we're talking about the second generation. My father would have been the second generation removed from in slavery. And so I think that the mindset, the parenting was just designed the way he experienced it. And so I think entering into grade school and entering into, junior high, and I think we all know what comes along with that, preteen, adolescent stages. I may have been a little bit absent from some fundamental values, self-esteem that is really important for not just young women, but young people. And then if you add that additional element of being a young brown person, a lot of what I needed to be successful at a very young age was absent from my development.
No, I hear you. That's and I think that is not singular or isolated to you. And again, that's why we're having these discussions and focusing on Black women because just young people that's listening right now, specifically young Black girls, not having that coach, that life mentor, that whatever you want to call it, just someone to look up to, someone to talk to, to share some of their concerns where you guys, have been there, you've done it, so that's why we're doing this. Thank you for sharing. Um, you know, um, I would ask, like, what is one of the life lessons that you valued from, growing up? Let's just say, your early school age years, K through 8. What life lessons did you seen it and it rang a note for some reason. It touched a nerve and you just, you held on it to this day.
I think how I would respond to that is education, learning, and I'll kind of go deeper into that. So I liked school. I liked elementary school. I didn't love it. I liked it, right? And if you think about elementary and you actually break it down, it's where you're, in some cases, getting your first social interactions with people that, for my case, did not live in the neighborhood. So I'm getting some exposure to new people, new cultures, new mindsets. And of course, we're still really young. We're probably less than 10 years old most of that time, but you're never too young to learn, about different people, meet different people, create friendships. So I enjoyed going to school, and in between making friends and socializing, there was the learning component, and I clearly was picking it up. And then there was the transition to middle school. In middle school, for the 7th and 8th grade, I excelled academically. I was in the honor roll. I enjoyed going to school. I think what really stands out for me is I enjoyed having a locker. I enjoyed going to, 6 different classes. I was still a little bit shy, but for those who knew me, I enjoyed interacting with them in between classes, right? Sometimes being late. I think we all were. And so, I was also going through what most preteens, teens go through, a kind of a shift in discovering who I am. And then remember, we have to also tie in, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know there was so many fundamental aspects of youth that just weren't ingrained in me. It was an adventurous time for me. And so what stuck out for me is knowing that I can learn, I enjoyed learning, and that I could actually be honored for my talents, my knowledge, the things that I was willing to learn. Somewhere between 8th grade and 9th grade, I was no longer interested in learning, right? Or I should say, I didn't think that that was an interest of mine anymore. I didn't feel as though it was something I wanted to do. I didn't want to pay attention, so there was a shift in me. There was a lot going on in the world. There was a lot going on in my world. And I remember that. I don't remember the moment, the day, the second that it happened, but there was a shift in me where my focus was no longer education. My focus was everything that was going on outside of school. And then we'll fast forward to who I am today. And I realize I am a lifelong learner. I have found in the healing, in my life, in my journey, that Mitzi is not gone. That Mitzi was kind of just dormant for a while the other Mitzi was kind of really just experiencing a lot of things, right, wrong, indifferent, and just finding herself. And so within that journey, it is a pleasure that I was able to come full circle and recognize that I am a learner. I am a teacher. I am someone who wants to constantly obtain knowledge. And so I take that out of my youth because I can recall that I started off as a person that loved and enjoyed learning, went through a transition and find myself back as that little girl, Mitzi.
Well, I think the crazy part about that, and not crazy, I just can't think of a better word. The irony and all of that is that was actually education, that journey, that transition. Like you looking back, like, oh, you know what? I wasn't, interested, at least I thought, about education, but you still were learning things as you went, right? And so then you get to here and you can look back on it. It's like, okay, I learned some things. I probably wasn't learning them in the traditional sense, right? But there was some things I was learning, good, bad, or indifferent, like you said. And I want to say this, folks. If you know my wife, she is super intelligent, a stout learner. And even when we had little children, I was always amazed, like the words she would use with them. In my mind, I'm thinking they're kids. And why would we use words like this? And like words like pendulum, right? But I could see where it paid off and what she was trying to accomplish. So definitely. And I think I'm glad you said education, and then you kind of fast forward it to where you are today. Let's if we can talk about that transition from the educational world. You graduated high school, and then what was how did you navigate that journey of getting to where you are now? I mean, how did you choose this field, or did it choose you, or how did that tie in? Because it sounds like you're speaking for a lot of young Black girls who really get to some point and they're like, okay, now what? Like, I was this, and I'm, what I'm saying? Like, so how did that transpire to where you are now?
Wow. So I graduated from high school and took a job, as a lot of young kids out of high school will do. I took a job at a sidewalk cafe and bakery in Concord. And at the time, my father was married to a lady who worked in the business office, which was at the top of that cafe. The cafe was on the bottom floor. So that's how I was able to obtain the job. And it was physical labor, right? And, it's making sandwiches, it's coffee, it's a cafe. And but I was responsible for closing. And that includes sanitizing, bleaching, every single day. I didn't complain. It was bringing in the money that I needed to live. Moved out, shared a spot with a friend, and we were living. I was 18, I was 17 when I graduated, so we were, without going into detail, had our own apartment. We were living life, and at some point, I got burnt out on that type of work. It's hard to say what fire was sparked in me, what made me feel like I need more. This isn't it. This is helping. This is doing what it needs to do, but it didn't feel like I needed to stay there. My time had expired in that role. So I quit. I didn't have plan B. I quit. I quit the job, and I'd worked since I could get a work permit when I was 15 at Taco Bell on Admiral Callahan Lane in Vallejo. That was my first job. Rest in peace, Willie McCoy. And so I'd quit and had some unemployment available to me. So I just, okay, I'm gonna collect this unemployment, but I'm gonna actively look for work. And that was difficult. But I looked, and it's back when the newspaper ads had open position in it. Internet wasn't quite. If it was, I didn't have access to it.
You mean there was no LinkedIn?
There was no LinkedIn. There was no FaceTime. No Facebook. There wasn't. I didn't even have a cell phone. I had a pager, red pager. Please don't start with me on that. And so I'd been actively looking for work, and ironically enough, my father found in the newspaper this position that was open at the local cable company, within the city. And I thought, okay, I'll go down, I'll apply, because then you have to go down and apply. I'll go down, I'll submit my application, and I got an interview. I interviewed with a gentleman named Mike, and I had a nose ring, young brown queen going into this facility of business. I had my nose ring at the time. I had on what I thought was a cute dress, but oh my goodness, let's not talk about that. In hindsight, why did I do it? And so, I interviewed with him. I passed with flying colors. He hired me. I don't even believe this process took a week. He hired me as an entry level position. And I thought, this is it. This is it. This is something in me. It felt, this is it. This is what you needed. I'm now working in a business environment, right? I'm no longer in fast food or the cafe. And that's no knock on those who have a career within those industries. Again, I'll go back to, it wasn't for me. Something in me said there is more, and if you stay here, you're not going to reach your more. So I got the role. I pretty much excelled in there fairly quickly. Again, that goes back to being a lifelong learner. At the time, I didn't know I was a lifelong learner, but whether you recognize what you are or not, others will. Others will see in you if they're paying attention. So I'm thinking, well, I'm just going to work. I'm collecting my pay. There's health benefits. There was retirement. I was like, your girl is here. And so that eventually excelled into, promotions and acquisitions of the company. And those acquisitions resulted in more exposure for me. And it was within that exposure where I was able to secure a role reporting directly to the then area vice president, who offered me the opportunity to learn any discipline of the business that I felt I was interested in, right? That goes back to people seeing in you when you don't necessarily see something in yourself. I was just being Mitzi. I was surviving. I was out of the house at 17. I was just trying to live and live comfortably. And so was able to secure the role. It created so many opportunities for me to learn different parts of the business. And it is from there that I was able to promote into the department that I'm in now, and then continue growth from there. And that, I must say, was not something that I could have done on my own. I've had many, many mentors. And I know we started off with me talking about the other Black queens that have taken me under their wing, but it wasn't just those Black queens. It was multiple Black queens, but it was also just teammates in the business who actually had my best interests at heart. And so I don't have that traditional poli-sci degree, right? I don't have your traditional path of going into a department like mine, fresh out of Sidewalk Cafe and Bakery, right? I have a journey of learning in business, like a hands-on learning through trial and error. I have the experience of learning from others who had been in the game a lot longer than me. I had the journey of mentorship and sponsorship from those who took a genuine interest in my growth. And I find myself in that space where the tables are turned now, where I am attempting to make and ensure opportunities for other who are attempting to come up in the industry.
Hey, babe, absolutely amazing. I know that story. Some of it I didn't know. I didn't know Pops found you that job. So shout out, Pops. Appreciate that. What I really do want to touch on, because you spoke about it earlier when we started talking about the bio of your work, and just like right now, because you keep going back to it. Earlier when you was talking, you had mentioned like not even knowing, you wasn't exposed to the certain business aspects. You even mentioned it earlier when you came in with the interview with the nose ring and what you thought was cute, right? So just really quick, or not even really quick, can you elaborate? One, I really do want you to focus on as much as you can on those Black queens. Shout out Dahlia Moody, shout out Linda Creighton. I know those for sure. I can't even tell you what kind of women they were. But talk about their role, and then them exposing you to that nose ring Mitzi to the business room Mitzi. I don't know if that made sense, but because you talked about it, but they played a role. And how do we get young girls exposed to that?
So we're talking about a time I started there in 94. So we're talking about a different mindset in business. What these women gave to me was the knowledge of knowing that, one, you might not be invited into the room. Two, if you are invited into the room, you're going to stand out. Everything about you is going to stand out. Your dress, your hair, the way you walk in. Do you walk in with confidence? Are you walking in with your shoulders slunched? What you bring to the table when the conversation starts. How are you articulating yourself? Are you articulating yourself? Do you know enough to know when to stop talking and ask a question? Do you know when to respectfully correct something that may be presented inaccurately? Is this a person that you want to correct in front of more than one person? And, if it isn't just a one-on-one, is this a person you want to correct at all? These things we don't go into our first job, we don't go into many places thinking that. I think we as a people, I'm keeping it real. They said something wrong. And I had to learn that might have been wrong, but you might want to take that offline. You may want to have a one-on-one conversation. Depending on your level in the organization, you may want to pass your concerns on to someone who is their peer that can have that conversation. Let them kind of steward that conversation for you. And in a case like that, you may not get credit for catching that mistake. That person may give you credit. That person may recognize this is not a place where you want the credit, right? So I learned a lot of how to bring me to the office while staying employed, right? And I think that is a challenge for a lot of people. Again, we're talking about the 90s up until where I am now. Things have shifted. Things have shifted a lot. I've seen a huge shift since May 25th of 2020 in the business world. For those who may not be following along, that's the day George Floyd was murdered. And the nation recognized this catastrophe that our people were experiencing. And a lot of corporations made it an exerted effort to ensure that diversity, equity, inclusion were a part of their business mission. Right? Some people have stuck with it, some people have not. But I digress. And so we're talking about a space and time where that DE&I wasn't always the mission of an organization. And so these women taught me how to put my crown on straight and not let anyone knock it off.
I want to say this, and y'all get mad at me if you want to, and whoever else can get mad at me. But I tell you, because you said something about being invited into the room or to the table. Folks, if you know me and you're listening to me, understand this. I've seen my wife in action, fortunately, and she's not invited to the. When my wife is at the table, she is the table, and she's being heard. And I'm so proud of you for that because I think there's a lot of young women out there who have traveled your same journey and just never got that opportunity to be at the table and show what that Black woman excellence is. So I want to acknowledge that. And then things have changed, right? Things have changed in the work world. Things were different, right? Now we're talking about transition. We're talking about the life journey. You was doing all of that as a parent, as a young parent, right? So, talk about those little ones and becoming a mom and being different. Being a parent is different, makes you different, but I can't talk about being a Black woman mother. So, expand on that if you would, please.
Okay. So my first biological child, I delivered at the age of 21. And so that was my son. That was our middle child. And to your point, if I were to try to explain what carrying a life, sharing my oxygen, sharing everything that was my being with this thing moving inside me, I would just have to say it was the realization of miraculous work. You realize during this gestation period that you're not alone. You are literally not by yourself, if that makes sense. You are no longer, we walk around as ourselves, right? You actually grab the concept that it's alive. It's its own being, and I am nurturing. I am supporting this moving thing to grow and then come into this world. So that was my experience, regardless of what was going on around me, regardless of what was going on in my world. There was that peace. There was that embracing of this miraculous act that I was blessed to be a part of carrying and delivering. So when he got here, it wasn't a conscious decision, but I knew every act, every decision, everything I said, did, every place I spent my dollars was going to have an effect on him, whether it was positive or negative. I knew my decisions need to be focused and surrounded by him. I knew, and again, it wasn't like a light switch, but it was a complete transition of mindset that he is going to have and be better than me. No ifs, ands, or buts. He's going to be better than me. And I realized the only way he's going to be better than me is if early on I'm giving him the opportunities. I'm exposing him to those opportunities. And we need to rewind back. I'm building him up emotionally, physically. I am supporting his growth from the day I met him. And so, again, it wasn't this is what I'm going to start doing. It was a whole, and it could have been the entire 40-week gestation that changed my mindset, and I didn't realize it because it was a gradual act. It could have been upon me laying eyes on this reddish brown, beautiful ball of a baby who was huge because of the epidural. Huge baby. I couldn't really put my finger on it if I even had to. I think it was a transition of mindset. It was maturing. It was becoming a mother. And I knew, yeah, that's just it. There's no way he's going to go through the same battles that I've gone through. I'm going to place him at a place better than I was by the time he enters the world, regardless of what it takes, regardless of how much work, blood, sweat, tears, he's going to be in a better place than me. And I did that with, continue to maintain my employment, but I was blessed enough to have employers that really did back that life work balance. And, they knew I had to get my child to daycare. I needed to pick him up by a certain time. So my business hours might not start when your business hours start because, I don't even live in this county. And they were flexible. They were lenient. Going to work, doing the work of 2 people in an 8-hour day. That was one sacrifice. I was more than happy to do it just so that I can get off in enough time to go pick him up, spend time. And I know you've joked about this, and make his 7-course meal on a Monday and play, interact, whatever that looked like before bathing and putting him to bed. And so I have to say that it was a lot of flexibility from my company that allowed me to be the mother that I designed me wanting to be. And then I got with you. I found you, or you found me. We're not even going to get into that story, but and then after we decided to have one of our own, I don't know if people know, ours is a yours, mine, ours story. So when we decided to create our own clone of human being, and the job was just as lenient. The job was just as understanding and afforded me the time I needed to run a youth football and cheer program, participate in every baseball game between the 2 boys, whatever that time looked like, go to field trips with the children. So there was a healthy balance available to me. And I do recognize not everyone has that. But that was my journey, having the ability to be an employee, a mother, a wife, and then as we've gotten older, also a daughter to those that need me to be present, more than they did back then.
Uh, uh, yeah. Um, I think the one thing you touched on that I didn't even recognize talking not to just to you, but any mother that has been on here is that you mentioned you created the mom you wanted to be. Like that's deep. I never thought of me creating my father as the father I want to be. You know what I'm saying? So, people there's so many levels to being who you are. And but when you start really internalizing some things, you create that image that you want. You create who you are. You create your parent style. You create your professional attitude and things like that. So, that's what stood out. I mean, many other things stood out in there, but I think it says volumes about you and your capacity as a mom, becoming a mom to Black children, and making sure you push them and uplift them and motivate them. This is one thing I will say, people, you know, me and my wife differ in our parenting styles. And the one thing that I could never do, but I do admire and I respect it. I understand why she does it. But like my wife would just go in their room and lay on their bed and just be all up in their business talking to them. I can't do that. You know what I'm saying? But I know why you do it and I see it and I applaud it. I think it's healthy, and I will say this before we move on to our last area is, I just want to make sure that the people know, and I don't know if I've ever said this to you or what, but you being a mom to our daughter has proven beneficial to her, by far. There's no amount of anything that, and I'm trying not to cry, that you've done for her, you know, outweighs anything anybody has ever done. So I just wanted to make sure that I acknowledge your presence in her life as far beyond just being there. So thank you. Um, let's try to wrap up here. Um, because of who you are, I'll tell y'all the story about the AMA region, some other show. But my, my wife is absolutely the personification of a Black queen. Talk to me about being a Black woman, babe. Tell young people about being a Black woman. Tell the world about being a Black woman.
So now that we're kind of drawing to the end, and I opened up with where I had deficiencies in my life, where in hindsight I've recognized those deficiencies. So I can accurately say young Black women, young Black girls, you may be going through that same journey, recognizing some deficiencies. You may not even recognize those deficiencies, but you will when you make it to the other side of that valley. The power that we have as Black women is hard to put in words. We are the backbone, the rib of our Black men. And I know you hear that and you're like, well, what does that mean? I saw that in the Bible about Eve. And what does that mean? Well, as a Black woman, we don't know what our Black men go through. We see a bit of it here on the news. We see a bit of it maybe in the workplace. We see a bit of it in school. But we don't know what it is to be a man. So as a man who is responsible for the safety of the family, the financial needs of the family. And when I say the family, it's not just your wife, your kids, it's mom, cousins. I mean, our Black men take on roles bigger than you can imagine. The health of the community, the health of the young Black boys that are in the community. And they get pressure, they get pushback, they get killed for doing what is right. They get faced with all this ugliness in the world when they step over the threshold of the home. as Black queens, we are the ones when they come home to rejuvenate them, to give them that strength, to let them know you can go back out tomorrow. It might happen again, but when you come back, I'll be here. If we need to sit here quietly, if we need to just sit here and stare at each other, if we need to go for whatever that looks like, we have the strength. We hold the strength of making sure that our nation is strong, right? And we're going into a space and time where we are now partnering as warriors, right? And so for us to tap into what it is that we can do and not focus on what we can't do, because I haven't found the thing that I cannot do yet. I may not do it the way tradition says. And I tie that back to, I didn't traditionally get formal education to do this, do that, do that. I shouldn't even be here. But there never crossed my mind that I can't. I'm not going to do it the way this book says, or this college says, or this company says, but I'm going to do it. And I think as Black queens, we need to tap in and recognize we have power, not to just advance ourselves and better ourselves. We have the power to give those in power, our men, the power. So with that said, we're kind of like, we're the PG&E feeding the home, right? Your PG&E goes off. It's not just your computer or your TV that's going on. Your Wi-Fi's down. You don't have access to the outside. Well, we are that PG&E feeding the home. I know a lot of young women don't recognize that yet. They feel powerless. We live in a space and age where if you are a woman, you feel powerless. If you are a young brown woman, you feel even more powerless, especially if you're watching what's going on in the brown and Black communities. But we come from a people, and I'm not even getting ready to start on the Montgomery Brawl, but anyway, I'm not going to go there because then that's going to be a whole shift. We come from a people that are resilient. We come from a people who are smarter than what you're going to learn in school, smarter than what you're going to learn on the playground. We come from a people that persevere and make it. Whatever it is, we make it. And we don't follow those traditional paths. Find your power, find your strength. You may go through a lot of times where you feel weak, powerless, defeated, but you're not. It only takes one sister. And when I say sister, it doesn't have to be a blood sister. It takes just one sister or even brother that you trust that can help pull you out of those hopeless times. Someone that you trust can help pull you out of those hopeless times and get you back on the path of knowing that you're a queen. You are a queen. And I don't mean that, a lot of people use that word queen, but look up what an actual queen, a mother queen is. You're all of that, plus some.
Mic drop. Everything you said there was absolutely phenomenal. That it was, like you said, we can go a whole nother show on some of the things you just touched on. But I will say this, just a little bit of humor right quick. I just found out through my sister that if a Black man throws his hat up in the air, something's about to go down. So y'all just better recognize that. Baby, thank you so much for joining and sharing your journey and your inspiration, your knowledge, your expertise, your wisdom, your space, your energy, your zone. I will say this on behalf of our entire family. Um, you make us proud every single day. Um, you motivate us every single day. Your presence is phenomenal in the structure and the makeup of this family. I know you mentioned the rib and that stuff and the man. Without you, our house would probably just collapse on onto itself. um, so I just want to thank you. Is there any last thing you'd like to say to the people out there?
Don't take no for an answer. Find an alternative route to yes.
I love it. I love it. I will say this. There's a couple, me and my wife have this running joke about our marriage. One revolves around fried chicken, and then the other one is absolutely 1000%. I was raised a mama's boy. Been one, probably gonna die one, I'm pretty sure, unless something tragic happens. But with that being said, I never thought that I'd meet a woman that had that same level of tenacity that my mother had, and I absolutely have found that person. Your tenacity is incredible, and I admire it. I'm a big fan of yours. I'm a big fanboy of yours. I'll be your biggest cheerleader forever, as long as I can, for as long as you allow me. And I just want to thank you again for sharing this space with us. It is absolutely, just wonderful. Listen to you talk. I think it's a little bit more hitting the house with me because I've seen you go through so many things. I've seen you grow. I've seen both of us kind of grow and make some changes in this world and in our own personal life. So again, thank you for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing me to close up your summer series with my space.
So this is the second Crest Sider that's been on the show, ladies and gentlemen. She didn't show you
Who was
that
the
part.
first? Wait a minute. Who else was
Cassandra
on?
James. Cassandra James. She's running for
Is she-
district supervisor.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a Crest Side thing, folks. She didn't show you everything, but you probably don't want to see that. You probably don't want to see that part of the of
Well,
Mitzi. Of the Crest.
it's in me. It's not on me. So
Yeah,
it's
she
gonna
got a little
always
Cuddy
have
shirt.
its
She got a
place.
little Cuddy shirt that she throw on with her little Nike
Oh, I should have
Cortez.
wore that. I should have wore that.
Ladies and gentlemen, I could not have thought of a better way to end this phenomenal series, Summer Series 2023, Black Women. And again, it was overdue. It had to be done. And I just want to make sure that I'm doing my part of, you know, you know, my most beautiful said it best. Like when you young, you just don't know. You just don't know. There's a lot of things we don't know. I say this to people all the time. Like on the block that I grew up in, I'm sure my wife can attest to this. On my block, there was no city manager, there was no chancellor, there was no dean of social science on my block. There was no city council member. There was nothing that resembled what the school was trying to sell to me about being successful. It wasn't, you can go be the principal or the president. Well, how do you even become a president? Like, what do you got to do? So, it was on me to say, oh, okay, I know some powerful Black women, some intelligent Black women, some Black women that are making changes today, not 1930 and not 1950. They did, and I'm not knocking that. I'm just talking about today in 2023. We have beautiful Black intelligent women making headway, making tangible change, and then providing the pathway, a blueprint, if you will, shout out Dr. King, to young Black women to say, oh, she looks like me. She sounds like me. She got dreads like me. She got buns like me. Excuse me. She got locks like me. She got, her earrings are powerful like me. Her skin tone matches mine, and my skin tone is darker than this or it's lighter than this. But look at them. Look where they sit. Look what they do. And they still listen to rap music from the hood. They still dance, to jump to put their pants on. They still do all of these things. They out and about in the community. They was cheerleaders. They do all of these things that I'm doing right now, but I just don't know that I can do what they're doing unless somebody like Smith puts these Black women on the screen for me and says, oh, you're from Vallejo? You're from the Sunset District in San Francisco. You're from East Oakland. You're from East Palo Alto. You're from Sacramento. If I don't do it, then who? And that's why we did this. And it's not going to be the end of it. It's just the end of this series. I'm still going to continue to bring on some black people that's making some changes, whether it's, you know, female, male, LGBTQ. I don't care. But we can only expect our young people to be great when we show them great things. Yeah, I said it. We keep showing them the wrong thing. We're going to keep sitting at the table going, why they act this way? Well, because we allowed them to be exposed to these things and introduce them and not take that time like Miss Dahlia did and Miss Linda did with My Most Beautiful. Fix her crown and say, hold on, sister girl, your nose ring is cute and all, but hold on, there's another way we can do this too. You know what I'm saying? So it's not that you don't need the nose ring. You know what I'm saying? It's just how you rocking the nose ring. You know what I'm saying? So again, just these little intricacies that we gonna do our best to share the light on. Beautiful people. It's public comment. You know how to find me. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. You know what I'm saying? Drop me a note. Let me know if you like the show. Please share. You know what I'm saying? Because these are powerful messages that we had over this summer. Please share. Before we go, you know, like, hey, have a question or have a conversation with somebody that doesn't look like you, and you just might learn something if you shut up and listen. Beautiful back people. Till next time. I love you.
Shout out Bird. Hey. These people do not understand. I'm moving as fast as I can. Sending my prayers to God. He doing whatever he can.